I'm Raj Kumar with Devex here in Brussels at the European Development Days. And here with my guest, Joost Oorthuizen, who is the Executive Director or CEO of a group called IDH, the Sustainable Trade Initiative. In fact, very relevant for you to be here. I know you just gave a presentation. One of the pillars of this year's Dev Days is engaging the private sector.
Right.
Kind of terminology we hear a lot, and oftentimes we kind of forget, well, what does that actually mean? But this is what you do every day. So I mean, tell us a little bit about what does that mean? How do you bring in the private sector into this development conversation?
Yeah. Well, we work with them on what we call PPPs, and we invest together in the sustainability of their supply chains. So we work with the Nestlé's, the Crafts, the H&M's, the IKEA's, who have a problem, or they want to source responsibly their raw materials, which requires a lot of investments in the beginning of those supply chains. So smallholder farmers in cocoa or in tea or in cotton or in palm oil. And with them we make programs that invest in those smallholders, mostly about productivity. How can we beef up, improve the productivity of those smallholder farmers, which is very important from a development perspective, but is also very important from their commercial perspective. So we are able to merge these two things together in an investment package.
Let me ask you a little bit more about their commercial perspective, because I think a lot of people who've been in the development community a long time, there's often skepticism when they hear some of these big corporate names and they think, well, why is it in their interest to go and help smallholder farmers? Give us a sense of, you deal with these corporate executives all the time. What is their business perspective on why they would want to do this?
Yeah, well, it's a good point. I think 10 years ago it wasn't, so it's changing. It's changing because agriculture production is becoming scarce. So the market is changing. It used to be a buyer's market, but now it's becoming a seller's market. Chinese are buying cashews, so are we. The Indians are buying, everybody's buying. So it's good news for African farmers.
Okay.
But the companies are getting nervous, right? If you're Mars and you're doing 12% of the world chocolate, and all your beans come out of 2 countries, and those cocoa farmers are changing to rubber or palm oil, you want to invest. You want to make sure that your cocoa is also there 5 years from now, 10 years from now. That's a risky venture, right? So they want to invest in those smallholder farmers and smallholder productivity. Unilever came up publicly only 2 years ago, Paul Polman, the CEO, saying we are going to engage 500,000 new smallholder farmers into our businesses. He doesn't do that for philanthropy. It's too big a number. It's commercial. And that's the interesting thing of working with those companies, because it's no longer corporate social responsibility. It's not about doing good, it's about doing business.
This is business.
This is business.
And I guess this is where you get engaged, because Unilever can certainly say we need 500,000 smallholder farmers engaged in our supply chain. Much easier said than done. How do you actually go about doing that? Give us a sense of what is the development work that goes into creating these supply chains.
Yeah, that's a tough part, right? For them it's easy to invest in processing facilities or anything which is close by, which you can control, but those smallholders out there is enormously difficult. If we take the case of cocoa, like I said, it comes out of Ivory Coast, Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria. You have around 3 million cocoa farmers, many of them upcountry, dirt roads, no connection, not organized, How on earth are you going to boost productivity of 3 million or 2 million cocoa farmers? It's tough.
Very tough.
So there you need the governments, there you need the NGOs, there you need the donors. So we have built a big program with Mars, with Nestlé, with Kraft, with Cargill, Ecom, all those guys, how are you going to solve this, right? So we are now involved in massive farmer training, farmer organizing. They are engaging with certification, so that they can reach out to those farmers, and who you're talking with, you can reach out to them. And I think up to now we have reached out to, say, 200,000 of them. So 200,000 are now better engaged in those supply chains. So still many to go. But it is
a big achievement in itself. Sure.
That's a big achievement in itself. We just had a presentation on tea, which is even more, I think, appealing what you can do with big business. The Kenyan Tea Development Authority is a cooperative of 600,000 smallholder farmers, tea farmers in Kenya. In 3 years, the whole of those 600,000 farmers are under a new system of farm production, farm training, against certification. So the whole of Kenya produces certified tea, which Unilever likes because they like to put a rainforest frog on the pack, which the consumers like. and which KTDA likes because it helps them to invest and to link it to buyer markets. And that's what we facilitate.
Now, one of the other questions that you get sometimes is people say, well, if the private sector is so engaged in this and they want to do it, why do we need to spend development money on it? Why shouldn't they just pay for it?
Yeah.
And I know your model is a matching model, right? It's
Yeah.
one-to-one
Yeah.
development aid dollar to private sector.
Yeah.
Give us the argument. Why does it make sense for this community at a time of austerity and value for money? Why invest here?
Right. Yeah. Well, from a development aid perspective, I mean, until pretty recently, we always did it on our own, right? We invested development aid money in NGOs who started then to organize farmers, and then there was no market. Boom, project collapsed. Or we tried to do it through the Ministry of Agriculture, and then extension services were not held accountable for performance because there was no real market drive, right? So if you work with those big companies, there is serious stake in the business. Right? They want to make it work. So if you co-invest with them, if they put money into this, you're damn sure that they are pretty serious to make it work. Sure. So leveraging their power is a very important thing. Maybe more important than the money, it's leveraging their commitment to make this happen. Our studies show that €1 of public money it triggers leverages around 4 to 5 euros out of private money, right? Well, that's the business case, right? If you put in €1, you get 4 or 5. You get 4 or 5 back. Well, I don't think that we have done that in the past with all those projects with smallholder farmers, because often we were far too expensive because we did it the NGO way, or well, it basically failed because we didn't. Well, we don't know how to do business, right? Business knows how to do business. We just need to facilitate them and align them and ensure that they reach the public good, because that's what I think we are after.
So what's your challenge in scaling this model? I know this initiative comes out of the Netherlands,
right,
funded by the Dutch government.
Right.
I understand it's something you want to take broader.
Right.
What are the hurdles you've got to cross to get this to be something where every aid agency in the world says, oh, this makes sense, we ought to invest in this? Right.
Well, I think one, we need proof of impact. Right, like your question, what does it bring us? I think we need to show that this works. Well, we are building on it. I think we can show it now for different commodities. So we have now building the business case for this kind of work. Second, which is a difficult one. That's why I'm here in Europe, or at the European Commission. Every country wants to do this on its own. Right? We calculated it. There are 368 cocoa projects in West Africa. Right? It doesn't make sense. There are only 10 companies involved in this whole business, so why do we have 368 projects? Right? Why not 10? Now that's why I'm here. I think we need to unite this thing at a more pan-European level, so that we can align donor investments, we can align the investments of the development banks, because it's not all to be grant money. It can also be loans, it can also be equity participation, right? You can do different things around it, but you have to. The beauty of structuring it out around commodities. You have to follow the supply chain, so it's like an organizational principle which tells you what to do and what makes sense. So there's a logic into it.
Right. You've got an end result you're shooting toward.
Right, and you have your end markets. So it's not just investing over there, it's also organizing the market demand in Europe, right? And there it also makes sense that European countries who have the same demands when it comes to consumers, we want to eat responsible chocolate, or whatever you call it, fair chocolate. We all want to have shampoo with palm oil that comes out of plantations that do not cut down the trees, right? That's not different from the Dutch or from the Germans or from the British or from the French. We all want that as citizens. Now we have to organize those markets around it. If we give strong signals to the Brazilians, hey guys, this is the type of soy we want to into our feed, then they will listen. If it's only the Dutch, if the Dutch say we want square soy and the Germans say we want round soy and the French say we want triangular soy, the Brazilians say, you know what? We just deliver you and then we bring it to China anyway, so we won't listen to you anymore. So EU needs to bring together its market demand when it comes to sustainable demand.
Sounds like a great vision. I ask you one last question, which is looking ahead 4 or 5 years. Where do you think this is going? It seems that we're in the infancy. We still talk about engaging the private sector as a kind of a separate item here at development events like this. Right. Are we getting to the point where this is going to be mainstream? This is not going to be a side issue? Give me a sense of where you think this is heading.
Well, yeah, if you see the eagerness of all of governments to leverage private sector development and leverage private sector investments, it's just a matter of finding the right answers on how to do it, because I think the commitment is there. But once we have found that, then I think it can be mainstreamed and upscaled. We are investing now, our total investment package is 500 million euros up to 2015 on 15 commodity chains. But that's not enough, right? Our own money is around 100. We just built a coffee program, which is a global program out of the biggest roasters in the world. There's 4 roasters do 40% of the world coffee trade, right? That's how it is. It's 4 companies. We built a program with them which requires around $150 million. Now, how do we get, if I just have 3-4 donors who want to line up with this thing, right? And a few governments, you have a global coffee program. Well, I think that's the future. We need to align those forces around those big commodities.
I love that vision. It's very tangible. It's a certain select group of companies, a select group of donors. It feels like this is something you can really get done.
It's not easy, but it's doable. Yeah.
Doable. Well, I think that's a great message for us to end this conversation. This is a topic and a trend that we at Devex are going to be continuing to cover. So thank you so much for being a part of this today.